It's a thirsty Thursday. Big Deke news. Before we get to the main topics of today's show, just wanted to discuss this Darius Slay situation off the bat. Kind of weird. Steelers obviously released him a couple days ago. All well and good there. Made sense, it looked like, for both sides to part ways. Then he's put on waivers, and the Bills put a waiver claim in for Slay, so it looks like Slay's going to be a Buffalo Bill, but then reports are out that he's not going to report up to Buffalo, and he's considering his football future and may call it quits and ultimately retire. Now, I'm seeing another thing thrown out there from Ian Rappaport that said the Eagles also put a claim in for Darius Slay. It's just that Buffalo Bills had the higher priority. So it's all kind of weird to me, because if the Eagles got that claim and the Bills never even put in a waiver for Slay, is Slay really considering retiring and saying that his football future is up in the air? I doubt it. What do you guys think? My guess is he just doesn't want to play up in Buffalo. He's pulling an AB. Remember when we traded AB to Buffalo for like a 5th-round pick? AB's like, yeah, I'm just not going there. So do what you guys want with that. I think Slay is somehow, some way trying to force his hand back to the Eagles for the last 5 weeks of 2025 and is trying to go on another playoff run with his former team. That's my guess. I don't know how this would all shake out. Maybe the Bills would have to trade him to the Eagles because they have Slay's rights because they put in the waiver claim. And Slay's saying, all right, I'm not even showing up there, so I'm either going to retire or maybe you could trade me and maybe I'll reconsider to a specific team. If you trade me to a specific team, I could maybe lace him up again for the rest of this season. And that specific team is the Eagles. So maybe it takes like Eagles tossing the Bills like a 2027 7th-round pick or something, if they really care to get Slay that much. I don't know how much they're really pushing towards Slay coming back, but they did put in a waiver claim, so there's something to be said for that. Let's get to some of this other stuff, though. George Pickens, there's a new article that just dropped on him by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and Todd Archer, and it details Pickens' journey from the Steelers to the Cowboys and why he's having this coming into his own moment, reaching his full potential, hitting his ceiling with the Cowboys compared to the Steelers. And the article details some background and behind the scenes as to why the Steelers ultimately moved on from Pickens. I don't think it's coincidence, the timing of this article dropping today on Thursday with the Cowboys playing in primetime on Thursday Night Football. Either way, let's delve into the article here, some of the quotes. This goes back to last season when the Steelers played the Cowboys. Jordan Lewis, one of the Cowboys cornerbacks, was talking about Pickens, and he said, Steelers need a receiver. Pittsburgh needs a receiver. George Pickens is weak. It was not only opponents who had issues with Pickens. The Steelers, who made him a 2nd-round pick in 2022, were growing tired of his apparent immaturity. He's a child, one Steelers source said bluntly about the team's problems with Pickens. The playmaking is breathtaking. You can't take that away from him. He just really struggled with the maturity part. You didn't know what you were getting day to day. Brooke Pryor quoted from the article, when he was having a good time, he's really fun to be around, funny, cracking jokes, you smile. But when he wasn't having a good day, he didn't want to be bothered or coached. I couldn't put my finger on why. From a Cowboys standpoint, they were betting on the presence of Prescott to maximizing Pickens' enormous skill set. That's where a lot of his issues from Pittsburgh stem from, a player source said. He didn't have stability at quarterback. The stuff he couldn't control, he had a hard time dealing with, and quarterback's play is not in his control. I think the quarterback issues in Pittsburgh played a part in his frustrations. Last thing, one Steelers source who was consulted by the Cowboys told him that Pickens would be fine in Dallas because he'd have an alpha quarterback in Dak Prescott and an alpha receiver running mate in CeeDee Lamb. The source added that Pickens was late to meetings a lot in Pittsburgh, sometimes to the point you felt the game was disrespected, but teammates loved him. Yeah. This is why the Pickens trade went down pretty much. This is what we knew. I guess you get some behind-the-scenes commentary and details on it, but didn't we already know this is why the Steelers traded Pickens? Maturity issues, and we know that he's a talent on the field, and maybe part of the reason why we had some ups and downs with him was because of the Steelers' quarterback play, subpar quarterback play, inconsistent quarterback play while Pickens was here. But still, Pickens wasn't professional enough, and Some of that immaturity bleeded into the locker room and hurt the chemistry, hurt the vibes. And I think the Steelers going forward just felt like that relationship, that dynamic was too far gone. And even with the new pieces coming in like Rodgers and some of the trades and moves that we made this offseason, Pickens just wasn't going to be a good fit for the Steelers culture anymore. Whereas the Cowboys, they looked at Pickens, saw the talent, and felt like the Steelers were underutilizing him. If Pickens can get around a quarterback like Dak Prescott and have a running mate like CeeDee Lamb, things can change. Pickens would maybe be a little bit more professional and be a little bit more happy at work. And some of that drama, some of the chemistry or locker room issues would fade away. And that's why the Steelers got a third-round pick in 2026, and the Cowboys got George Pickens. And so far, the Cowboys were definitely right on their assessment, like 100%. And even though, as I said, a lot of this stuff in the article we knew, it did spark a thought for me. And I think why Pickens is working with the Cowboys, because like his immaturity and the Pickens stuff isn't completely gone. We've seen some moments pop up throughout the season with him, obviously suspended on Monday night. Even within the article, they mentioned that Pickens is still having late issues and showing up to meetings past the scheduled time. But obviously it's being swept under the rug, no big deal, anything like that. I think it's because the Cowboys, this is going to sound crazy, but it's also true, which makes this statement I'm about to make sad. The Cowboys actually offer hope to their players, specifically talented players, guys that are supposed to be making impact. They offer hope, reason for optimism, reason for like joy whenever you walk into the building because of how they have their offense set up, how their team's set up now. On it, like I know their defense was bad with some of these Quinnen Williams trades and some of the moves that they made. They actually like look like a decent team that's in line with 2025. Whereas here for Pickens in Pittsburgh, it's like, what hope did he have? Like the article said, he had issues with things that were outside of his control. Now, obviously, Pickens should have handled things better. There's no doubt about it. He even admitted himself a couple weeks ago there was some, what was it? One of the Players Tribune article or something Pickens was doing, and he admitted that he was out of line at times in Pittsburgh. He was trolling the media, and it just wasn't a fit anymore. So I do think, though, looking at what Pickens had as his surroundings for that time, Matt Canada is offensive coordinator. Obviously Pickett having some inconsistent play, Trubisky, Rudolph, and then going to Russ and Fields and all that with Arthur Smith. You're seeing how our offense is not really in line with a 2025 offense. I could see why he'd be getting frustrated from the inconsistent quarterback play, the shitty play calls, the scheme, all that stuff. Like, I don't blame Pickens for wanting out now. Like, seeing how everything in this storyline has taken place, and we're here right now, 6-6, middle of the season with Rodgers and the new offense, trading for Jonnu Smith, all this shit, right? Trading for DK, letting go of Pickens. I'm starting to think Pickens is right. Like, the people that wanted out of here, Pickens, even Pickett, I still don't think that was the best business decision for Pickett, but seeing how he was treated, like I could see why these dudes wanted out, because it doesn't feel like the Steelers have a vision for offense, vision for a 2025 team to really compete. And yeah, maybe Pickens could have handled himself better, but ultimately, who's looking more right now? Who's looking more right? It's not the Steelers. It's looking more like the Cowboys for taking a chance on Pickens, and Pickens for not really caring to stay in Pittsburgh anymore. It's sad, man. It's sad. But I actually think this is a good time to segue to the next topic, because they kind of go together in a way, and that's James Harrison talking about Mike Tomlin as a coach and how he thinks that Tomlin is a good coach but not necessarily a great coach. Here's his reasoning.
And as much as I hate to say this, I have never been a person that thought Coach Tomlin was a great coach. I thought he was a good coach. And I'll be honest, part of that is because when I was slated to be the starter, when Joey left, he drafted 1 and 2 outside linebackers. And I was actually behind one of them for a minute. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we have coaches on this staff, and that's it. And when I say coaches, I'm saying this as a coach is someone that tells you what to do. And it doesn't matter if what they're telling you to do is right or wrong. That's what a coach does. And we have coaches. Okay? A good coach gets you to play to your potential. And right now, the players we have on that team, I have seen play. I know they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen them do it, and they're not playing up to their potential. And a great coach gets you to play beyond your potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the Steelers historically don't move on from coaches. But I think it's time that history be made, because right now, the only history we're making is being the worst Pittsburgh Steelers team statistically almost in the history of the organization. And when I think about this, bruh, and you go back and you look at the chief, Art Rooney Sr., where he took this franchise from in 2. And then Dan Rooney continued the legacy. And to see it where it is now is incomprehensible, bro. The legacy of the 1970s Steel Curtain defenses to the Blitzburg defense of the 2010. And to see what it looks like now is unbelievable. I'm going to be a Steeler fan for life, bro. But I like to be a Steeler fan that believes we can win a game and doesn't just hope we can win a game. And right now, I done lost hope.
Damn.
I'm not going to lie, it's tough to argue some of Harrison's points here. It really is. But I'm not even like that into the semantics of Tomlin's overall body of work, good coach, great coach. Where do you categorize him? I'm just more talking about right now. Because the resume, 19 years as the Steelers head coach, it's a borderline Hall of Fame resume. Like, you can't take that away from Tomlin. You can't. Stack him up against a bunch of the other coaches, guys that have made the Hall of Fame, guys that are borderline Hall of Fame. And that's why I say borderline. Like, Mike Shanahan ain't in the Hall of Fame. Tom Coughlin ain't in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, you could probably argue between Tomlin and those two, who's the best coach of those three, that type of thing. But either way, like, I would consider that a really damn good resume, right? Obviously, Tomlin knows what he's doing and how to coach to an extent. You can't take that away from him. But so did Bill Belichick. So did Pete Carroll. What have you done for me lately, though? That's what this league's all about. And Tomlin's last 4 or 5 years, you could even stretch it out to 8 years. But I think focusing more on like the last 4 or 5 is appropriate with just how things have shifted within the Steelers organization, like the power dynamics with Ben retiring and Tomlin presumably getting more say on what coordinators are here, because the Butler thing, whenever Butler was the coordinator, and even Todd Haley during like that Killer B era, was that Tomlin or was that more of like an organization thing? That felt more like an organization decision. And then when Tomlin first started out, Bruce Arians, he had Dick LeBeau, he had also championship pedigree players from the Cowher era. And I'm not big into the whole like, oh, Tomlin only won with Cowher players, like that type of conversation. But as we're seeing the storyline play out and the whole body of work play out with Tomlin and his career, it's actually tough to argue against, because as we've gotten further and further away from Tomlin first starting here and him having a Bruce Arians and LeBeau under him as coaches, like awesome coaches calling the offense and defense. And then you start to see like the Killer B era, Tomlin has more influence on what players are here. Those defenses were kind of wonky, but again, we have Keith Butler, DC. Was that a Tomlin decision? But then we move on from the Big Ben era. Tomlin, from my standpoint, would apparently have more pull on who's on the roster, what the coaches are, and all that. It's Matt Canada and Terrell Austin, and we draft Pickett, bring in Trubisky, a little bit of Mason, move off of those guys after drafting Pickens in the first round. We bring in Russ, Fields, Arthur Smith, Terrell Austin's still here. Move off of Russ and Fields, Rodgers, trade Minka, Jalen Ramsey, trade away Pickens, DK. You get what I'm saying? Like, all this stuff is like, I mean, it's all like this. I don't know where else we could point to say like who has the most influence on these more like these recent rosters over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't. Who else?
I think Mike T has that authority over Omar just because of how team meetings were, just because of the free agents we acquired. You'd be a fool to think Mike T doesn't have the last say with roster construction with the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially when you look at the contracts and the lucrative contracts associated with the defensive side of the ball, and Mike T being the defensive guy he is.
To me, it is Tom. He's the common denominator. He's been the head coach through all this time, from the last 4 or 5 years, going back to the last 8 to 10. Moved off of Ben in favor of having Matt Canada here and then drafting Pickett, Trubisky, all that stuff. I think that was the first mistake. But then, as things are playing out, there's more mistakes happening after that. It's just, what have you done for me lately? It's just like, where are you at in relation to the league right now? Really good? Great? First 6 years, right? Playoff performance or deep playoff runs, division titles, Super Bowl appearances. And as time goes on, still top echelon team, Killer Bees, underperformed. Then we move off of the Killer Bee era. Big Ben retires. It's like, all right, what's this next iteration look like? Because I did think Tomlin deserved a shot at the new era. And it's not been good. Like, just flat, it's not been up to snuff. We've stayed relevant. We've stayed relevant. A lot of ups and downs, but, you know, we're still going 9-8, 10-7. But we know what it is. It's the Steelers being a top 12 to 15, 16 type of team, but not really a top 5 team, not a team that can really contend. So that's what we're talking about right now. I think there are serious conversations, serious questions about Tomlin being able to lead a team past that mark, past that top 12 ceiling that it seems like the Steelers are stuck on right now. Top 12, top 10 type of team. Questions about it, right? Because as you look at the Tomlin timeline of being the Steelers head coach, what makes you think that he's going to be able to right the ship going forward with him being the major player or the major person within the organization that has say on roster and coaching and vision and design of offense, defense, all that? Because when Tomlin first got here, the nature of it was he was like the young coach coming in. So he was smart to keep LeBeau here and Bruce Arians and lean on the veteran players from the Cowboys era, all that stuff. And it worked. Like, I think it was honestly the perfect combination. I think he was the right head coach to take over after Cowboys. I think it was. It really was the right dynamic. But then, again, you get further and further removed from that. The draft class become more Tomlin's guys, and the roster becomes more Tomlin's guys. Still unsure about the coaching, how much of the organization had say on Haley Butler. But then after that, after the Killer Bee, the Big Ben era, it looks like it's on Tomlin with Terrell Austin being here, Matt Canada, Arthur Smith. And again, the results are the results. So what's Tomlin right now? I think that's my point. I'm less concerned about semantics of Tomlin overall. Good coach, great coach. The resume speaks for itself. He is like a borderline Hall of Fame. Like, you can't take that away from him. But right now, when he gets further and further removed from having Big Ben as his quarterback and some of the coaches and the players from the Cowher era being there, it starts to get a little bit more wonky, right? Almost like Belichick after Brady, Pete Carroll after Legion of Boom, and Russell Wilson in his prime. Just not hitting the same. Definitely not. And we were seeing Pete Carroll trying to do things his way with the Raiders and not as good. So I would be interested to see what Tomlin could do with another team, another organization. Is it the right fit anymore? Is it the right thing for the Steelers and honestly right thing for Tomlin now? Because we've talked about that. If he wants to go elsewhere, I mean, based on the fan reaction to Tomlin being here and how he may feel underappreciated, yeah, it's probably not the fit anymore for Tomlin either. But let me know your thoughts. I don't know if I have anything else to add. If I have anything else, maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow. Because this is like it is like a a big topic of conversation here. There's a lot you could delve into on that. But yeah, that's it for today's show. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Stay chilling. Peace.